And roll call, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Lohman,
Here.
Director Slater Carter.
Present. President statement. The results of the local elections are for the most part in, although the final, I think, announcement is December 14 when the Secretary of State confirms all of this. But I want to thank everyone who ran, both locally and everywhere else, and also to congratulate the folks that we know who did win their elections. It appears that Greg Diegas won. Tom Matoush for the Harbor District, Greg Diegas for Midcoast Community Council. A new member of the City Council, Joaquin Jimenez. I don't have it in front of me. And so welcome to the fun and exciting world of local government, where your decisions make an immense difference. And thank you again for running. Moving on to oral comments.
I would have an oral comment that's not on the agenda. That is a little bit of report about our joint sewer treatment plant, sewer authority mid-coast sites treatment plant, has currently some issues with the effluent biochemical oxygen demand, or short BOD. That's one of the parameters that the plant has to stay within a certain level. Otherwise, it becomes a violation. And unfortunately, we're right now, apparently, according to the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side, in a situation where the BOD is exceeding the limit, and that quite significantly. So once more, the BOD is, it's really the amount of oxygen that's required to remove the waste or the organic matter from the water. And it's related to the process of the decomposition by the aerobic bacteria. So what this all means is the more organic matter goes into the plant, the higher the BOD, or the more work the bugs have to do to take the BOD out. And right now so we're seeing significant exceedances at the treatment plant. It is the lowest flow period in the season, so we don't see a lot of extra water runoff going into the plant, but that's something that the plant has been seeing since a long time. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side staff is doing the best they can, and we know we have excellent staff to alleviate the situation. So what they're currently doing here is they're doing a number of things. First of all, they rented some sample units that are capable of sampling in various locations. I'm trying to figure out if there's a specific source of organic pollution. And so that is the assumption, or that is one way of looking at it, that there must be some sort of additional organic material end up in the plant. And so by trying to see where that actually happens, the thought is, well, then it could be stopped. Unfortunately, processing such a sample is a week-long process. So there is daily samples being taken, but it takes a long time until we see this coming back. The other action that SAM, of course, is taking is trying to get the BOD levels down. And there's two methods that they're applying right now. The first one is to try to equalize the flow into the plant to avoid any peaks. So that's what they're currently using, the intertie pipeline system and the associated tanks, our Walker tank here, and the storage in at the Burnham Strip. So that's currently being utilized in essence as a treatment method of trying to smooth out the flows to keep the BOD consistent, to build up bacteria that can digest this additional load. Then there is also some pre-treatment that will be implemented pretty soon that I think is some sort of a polymer, actually. Maybe Pippin can help me out. I think he just joined on this. That hopefully will also help to reduce the load. What this means is that the plant is in violation and we are expecting to see fines.
Clemens?
Yes. Rick.
Real quick question. When you mentioned that we're using the IPS and all of our normal wet weather storage things we do to help out SAM, it seems like since we're doing that, that's actually a major benefit to all three agencies which are currently in SAM.
Well, it is a method to help the plant right now, and the plant sees the benefit, and the users of the plant are the three member agencies. So I think you're right, Rick.
But just sort of saying the IPS is a big help to everybody.
Yes, thanks, and thanks for pointing it out again.
Christine,
Absolutely.
If we could document. So
That is
Christine, if
good.
we could document this.
Oh, Clemens, also, I think I saw in one of the letters that Kishan said they've temporarily stopped processing any of the leachate from Ox Mountain at the same time.
That's right. So reduction of additional material is also something that they're currently doing. I believe also that there's actually the idea of importing seed bacteria from other plants. I'm not quite certain if that has been done already. That's true.
So if we could have Christine can document this the intertie being used to help the plant in this situation. That'd be a good thing.
I think it starts also with the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side. They're of course documenting all of this because this is what we're doing right now.
Good. Great.
Be reflected in the minutes.
There is a SAM board meeting on Monday. And so I will ask Keishan and Tim if Half Moon Bay having a holding wet weather or storage effluent holding facility as part of their system would also be useful in this kind of situation. And so I will find a place on the agenda, maybe under managers' reports, we could do that.
We can chat about that.
Yes, but we've got to do that soon because I'm going to give Keishan a call tomorrow on that. Good. Do we have any, Greg, welcome. Congratulations on being an elected. Welcome to the club. Do you have
Some
any
people have
comments?
offered me condolences.
Yeah.
Some people have offered me condolences, but thanks.
Yeah.
Catherine, we could also mention Dan Haggerty for the MCC.
Dan Haggerty was also re-elected to the MCC. I think this is his third time. I think he is serving his third term. I am not sure about that, but yes, he's a good man who works hard for the community. Any other not on the agenda public comments from anyone? I'm going to ask, since I don't have the list on, if I see your hands moving, it makes it easier. Uh, Seeing no more oral comments, we have no public hearing. We can move on to the consent agenda. There is approve the minutes for regularly scheduled board meetings of October 1 and October 15, 2020. Financial statements for September 2020, warrants for November 1, 2020. SAM flow report for September 2020. Monthly review of current investment portfolio, connection permit applications received, monthly water production report, rain report, monthly solar energy report, and monthly public agency retirement service report for August 2020. Do we want any items pulled off? Do we have a motion and a second?
Move
I
to
make the
accept.
motion.
Ah, I'll let Jim have it and I'll second it.
It's okay.
That sounds good. All those in favor of approving all 10 items on the consent agenda, roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. And amazingly, we have no old business. We must be getting pretty good at getting things done. And so we're moving into new business, and we have a lot of new business. First item is review and possible action concerning adoption of a debt management policy.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. So this is actually in the context of our following agenda item, which I'm very excited about, the refinancing of the GO bonds. In this context of refunding our 2012 series, we need to submit a report to the California Debt and Investment Advisory Commission. And this report needs to include a debt management policy. And so there's a couple of things that need to be included in this debt policy. I'm gonna use this agenda item to introduce James, our new bond counsel. And he, of course, looked at this up and down and made sure that we are in compliance. And I'm going to ask him to say a little bit of some words about this. Ultimately, my staff recommendation is to approve the debt management policy, and that is done through the accompanying resolution, of course. James, maybe you can enlighten us a little more about this policy and the need for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager. James Warziniak of Jones Hall. And as the General Manager said, we at Jones Hall are serving as bond counsel to the district on the next item, which is the GO refunding bonds for savings. So as indicated, it's a new requirement under California law. It came into effect about 2 years ago. So was not in effect for the 2012 series, but about 2 years ago came into effect that each local agency, cities, counties, special districts like yourself that are going to be doing bonds or other kinds of debt need to have a debt management policy in place. And so we, as bond counsel for many cities and special districts throughout the state, have put together a kind of a template form that works well. It meets all the requirements of the state law, but is also pretty flexible. So the board can amend it in the future, can make changes to it at any time in the future. It's pretty flexible. And as indicated in the staff report, there's 5 main things that the policy has to cover. You know, the purposes of the debt, the types of debt that the district might do, tying issuance of debt to your capital improvement program or other objectives of the district, policy goals, and then internal controls and procedures to make sure bond proceeds are spent properly. In this case, we're going to be doing a bond to refund old bonds. So there's no real bond proceeds going to be coming to the district. You know, we just pay off the old bonds with the new bonds for a lower interest rate. But in the future, if the district were to do other debt, you'd have this policy in place to govern all those types of things. So With that, I'm happy to take any questions on the item.
Good. Do I see any hands waving from the members of the board? It seems everything was very clear. Thank you, Christine and Clemens. Since everyone here generally knows this board, we generally have the pickiest questions about the most minute details, so I am impressed with the staff report and so on. Do we have any questions from the public? Greg, are you okay? Are you still there?
Yeah, and I don't want to say anything out loud. I think this is all a good idea for several reasons.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the praise. All right, then let's move right along and
Madam
adopt.
President, we do need
Yes.
to adopt a resolution.
That's where I was just going. The
Okay.
resolution next in order.
Thank you.
And who would like to make the motion?
I would like to make the motion.
Oh, Peter, our treasurer. Perfect.
Yes.
And who would make the second?
And I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call vote, please. All those
Wait.
in favor?
Time out a second, Catherine, are we voting? We keep talking about the resolution, which is the next item. Are we just
No,
voting
this
to
is-
adopt the debt management policy now?
By
Yes,
resolution.
by resolution.
Oh, okay.
So roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, review and possible action concerning general obligation bond refinancing.
Thank you, Catherine. So this is the big item that we just talked about. What this does is it essentially lowers the payments that all property owners in the district are making towards the GO bond. And so there's a direct saving to the taxpayer. The district won't see any of these savings. It's really our customers, the taxpayers, that will see the benefit. I want to thank Alex Handlers with Bartle Wells. We announced that we are going out to bid some time ago, and he really did the heavy lifting on this and was very good at getting very competitive rates. The 2012 series is already a very low interest rate, but the current market situation allowed that we should see some further savings here. So I'm going to ask Alex to lay out the details of this. Ultimately, we are, of course, then also asking to approve this and also by resolution. The long title is on the bottom of the staff recommendation. Alex.
Great. Hey, everybody. I hope folks can hear me this time. I know I had some problems with the microphone in the past, but it works, I take it. Oh, good.
You sound good.
Oh, great. So this is all good news. Yeah, interest rates are, near historic lows. Your outstanding general obligation bonds, they only had a 2.4% interest rate, which we never thought we'd refund them again, but here we are. We did a competitive RFP process and reached out to a lot of banks and lenders, I think about 15 of them, who sometimes operate in the space. And you got some really good bids back, including one stellar bid that took a while to get from JP Morgan Chase at a rate of 1.14%, which is
wow,
pretty darn low. So it does result in savings, which was the whole point of this, as Clemens mentioned. We're looking at savings of over $400,000 over the life of the issue, which only goes out about 8 more years. The savings, and in addition, in doing this, turns out there's some fund balance that's been accrued when the county does its tax levies, it always, levies a little extra to make sure there's enough there for debt service. So we're able to apply kind of this accrued fund balance to these bonds and even further reduce the amount of bonds that need to be issued to do the refunding. So ultimately, we're looking at an annual payment reduction. It should be, in the 150,000 range and maybe a little bit more, which is more than 4%, but some of that, the savings is, you don't really get to count the money that's been collected before as savings. But it should be roughly a 15% reduction in the tax levies that are on all the taxpayers in the district. So good news there. In your board packets, there was also some good faith estimates that are required to know about, what the true interest cost is, the finance charges, things like that. So I'm not going to report all the numbers, but it's all in the staff report. And the resolution before you is authorizing the district to issue the debt up to a maximum amount of $8,500,000. And you have about 8.3 million of outstanding bonds now. So we just wanted to make sure the maximum was high enough to account for everything. But when all is said and done, we think the new issue is going to be below $8 million since we're applying some of these funds. So good news, you got some great bids. And I'll tell you, you got great bids because you guys are doing a good job with your finances. And these GO bonds are also a good credit when they looked at the district and just how the customer base as well. So good reflection on everything and good results. The goal is, assuming the board approves these, is to get them closed as quick as possible so the savings can get locked in. You start realizing the savings. So we're hoping to have the whole issue completed by next Friday, the 13th. And that's a summary. Open up to any questions.
Friday the 13th? Could we choose Thursday the 12th? Jim?
I have two questions. First of all, Clemens, you made the comment that it'll help the customers for a lower payment, but it will not help the district. I'm not sure what you meant by that. And then I have another question after you answer that, please.
Yeah, sure. We received the proceeds of the GO bonds, the $19 million in the past. The money is spent. So now the taxpayers are paying back that bond. And that is, so it's like a mortgage payment. So we're living in the house and we're now refinancing that mortgage payment. And who's really making the payments are the taxpayers. So that is one of the line items that is listed under the ad valorem property taxes. It's marked as a GO bond series, the 2003 GO bonds. This is assessed according to the assessed property value of the individual property owners' homes. And so that factor, that multiplication factor, is essentially getting a little bit smaller. So they have to pay just a little tad bit less.
Okay, so you're saying it helps the customer, but the district already has gotten the money, and so that's why you made that comment. And my other question is, I've checked out refinancing over the years multiple times, and Alex, I want to ask you. So this is going to save 400,000. So if we look at all the financial charges for your time, all the fees, the fact that we on a loan you initially pay interest. So we're paying interest, you initially pay off the interest. So we're starting over again, paying just the interest and not the principal. My question, Alex, and I know I'm not very good at asking this, but my question is, are we really saving money? If we didn't do this refinance, would we end up being ahead on the total bottom line? Do you understand what I'm asking,
I
Alex?
do understand, and it's a very valid question. It's just like sometimes people refinance their house, but they're paying fees and and they're extending the term. They really don't save anything. This is all savings. That savings that's there factors in every cent that's being that has being incurred. It factors in the accrued interest on the old bonds. So everything's all factored in there. That is the savings numbers I'm giving you are the net savings numbers after any costs are incurred. In there, we put an estimate of about 70,000 for cost of issuance. There's bond counsel, municipal advisor, the bank has a fee. When you add all that together, CDAC has a charge. There's some other informational pieces we had to get from California Municipal Statistics. So this savings is net of all costs. It does not extend the term by 1 day. It's going to keep the exact same payment dates. Really, you're just reducing the payments that you're going to have from here on out. So it's a good question, but yeah, these are all savings. So it is true savings of over $400,000.
Okay. So I understand that, but let me just ask again. Maybe this is a repetitive question, but I know on any loan, you even though this is a much lower interest rate, we initially pay off the interest first. Is that, Alex, is that taken into consideration that on the old loan, we had mostly paid off the interest initially, and we were getting onto the principal? Even though this is a lower interest rate, isn't the fact that we're starting off paying the new interest initially, isn't that a disadvantage, or is that not an issue? Do you understand my question?
I do, and I think I missed the very end. There was like a little fade out there, but the answer is no. The way all these debt issues work, there's a series of principal payments.
You want me to repeat it? Did you get my question?
I think I got the gist from the way you were leading up to it. I just missed the very end there. But the answer is no. You're always paying principal and interest on the debt. And as you pay off the principal, your interest goes down. So in the very early years when you have a loan, you tend to have a lot of interest you're paying, but a little bit of principal. And then as you pay it down over time, you keep paying off the principal, and the amount of interest that you have to pay in the rest of the principal keeps getting lower and lower. So the very last payment, it's almost all principal and only a tiny bit of interest. I think you were getting at, are we like starting fresh now and putting principal out there? But the answer is no. The principal is amortized with your existing debt and with this new debt. Every 6 months, you make a principal payment and an interest payment. And when we bring down the interest rate, it means that more of your money is actually going to principal. So you're actually paying the principal off a little quicker with a new loan. So the impact is that your debt service payment is going to go from about $1,150,000 a year down to below $1 million a year. So the payment's coming down by $150,000 a year. You're paying it off. You're paying the principal off a little quicker. It's really just less debt service. It's all.
So you're saying from every aspect, even from the aspect of starting off paying more interest again, even though it's lower, we're way ahead. We're way ahead in every aspect. I'm just. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's no additional interest you're paying. It's just when we do the refunding, your interest rate's going to switch over from the current rate of 2.4%, and now you're going to start paying an interest rate of only 1.14% on the new bonds. So there's no bump up of payments or interest or anything like that. It's all.
Yeah, I'm just kind of. I haven't been following the interest, the payments very carefully, apparently, but we still owe $8 million. I'm surprised that it's still that high, but that's just the way it is, correct?
It is, and the bonds go back originally to the voter authorized bonds from 2003 that were issued, and then in 2012 those were refunded for savings and you took out the remaining $1.5 million of voter authorized debt issuance that you didn't take out in 2003, and still your payment came down in debt service too. But it just takes time to pay these things off, and part of it is what you were mentioning there. In the early days of paying bonds, 30-year bond, most of the payment's interest and only a little bit is principal. Same with a home mortgage, but as you go on, you pay more and more principal. So you still do have your 8.3 million outstanding.
It just seems it just seems a little perplexing to me that we still have 8 million. And how long before, if we don't refinance again, how many years are we paying this?
Yeah, you've got about 8 years left till August of 2028 is the final debt service payment under the existing bonds and under the new bonds. We kept exactly the same term and the same payment dates.
If we
keep it exactly on.
If we had kept the initial loan, what at the initial loan in 2003, what was the estimated time of completion at that point?
Exactly the same. The final maturity date, the final payment date has never changed. The original loan, I think, was from 2003, and it probably had a 25-year repayment period, which was the final period would have been August 1st of 2028. So that's been maintained. This loan has never been extended in any way.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much. Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Rick?
No, I just had the one comment which Alex just then answered. Like a typical house refinance, then you stick your house out 10 more years into the future. And he said very distinctly that the due date is exactly the same, we just pay less.
Exactly.
That's
With
a
the
hard
bonds, it's
argument.
typically done that way, yeah. So it's not like the home refi where it looks like the payment goes down, but you have to pay it for 10 more years. This has got the same final maturity date. The only thing changing is you're going to have a lower debt service payment.
Okay. If we vote yes on this, can our friends and relatives refinance homes and sort of a big package around this whole thing at the same rate?
It would be nice, wouldn't it? If we can get 1.14%.
I gotta say, I just did a
asking.
refi. I
Just
just did a
asking.
refi, and it was jaw dropping how much it took off the payment. Right now is a good time if you can manage it. Now is a very good time to look into it.
Well, and I will add that I was just hearing this is some of the lowest interest rates than for decades, and so yeah, it's a good time to start saving money. But I wish I could get 1.1. That would be good. But that's lower than projected inflation. So essentially, we're getting free money for the balance of the $8 million. And
Let's
we've
take out
already
some more loans, quick.
we've already put it to very good use, and hopefully, if I'm not sure we can quite put it together, if we could show folks how much they're saving on their water bills from what they would have been as they were projected in 2003, I think that by now they would have been triple or quadruple. So it's thank you very much, Alex and Clemens, and everyone else who worked on this, because it is a big deal for everybody's pocketbook. It doesn't seem like it until you really start thinking about the actual circumstances right now, and 1.1 is less than inflation. That's good news. So let's see, we need a resolution. So we need a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
I make the motion to accept this bond refinancing.
And I'll second the motion.
Jim, you're really on a roll tonight. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Enthusiastically, yes.
If we could have the minutes note that it's 3 ayes and 2 yeses.
Yes, of course. Next item, review and acceptance of the June 30, 2020 GASB 68 actuarial valuation. And Clemens, would you please explain it for the audience?
Thank you. I'm going to try my best to explain what this is about. So the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, sets these rules and regulations, and this GASB 68, what this really means, it's related to our pension plan, so on employee benefit, and we started implementing our plan in the fiscal year 15-16. And we've since then already received one GASB 68 actuarial evaluation. And this is really now the look at the unfunded liabilities that everybody's talking about. I'm excited about this item because this means that we can move forward with our audit and receive our audit next December. And I'm very thankful that Mary Beth with Bartel is here tonight and can help me out a little bit to get into the detail much better than I can. Mary Beth, maybe you can explain the work that goes into preparing this GASB 68 report, and also I think essentially share the good news that I think that's how we would see this.
Thank you, Clemens. Am I allowed to do the 2 agenda items in the reverse order? Or do you want me to stick with the order we're in?
I tell you what, since we need to review and accept number 3, I think before we review number 4, we can do that procedurally, and you can address both issues in your comments if you would like.
Yeah, I think there's a little more detail in the regular evaluation report that'll help. Okay. Would you like me to put the exhibit itself up on the screen so that everyone can see it, or do you all have it there and just want me to talk?
No, that would be good. People watch these meetings, and they'd have to go online and print the agenda and all of that stuff. So let's just put it up and make things as clear as possible so we're all on the same line.
Okay, did this work? Can you see a bunch of numbers?
It worked, and they're shifting around.
Okay. Technology is amazing.
When it works.
When it works, and it's working pretty well. So I'm here to talk about our report about the status of the pension plan. As Clemens said, we started it in about 2015. So this is I believe our 3rd valuation. And things are actually going really, really well. So I'm very excited to have good news to report to you.
Wait, excuse me. Are you doing screens sharing?
Yes. Can you see it?
No, I can't see it.
Oh, interesting. I have it on my screen with the participants down in a line on the right-hand side.
So it didn't show up really big for you in the middle?
I don't.
Rick, do you see it?
I have, my screen's like half and half. I see both.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you have to minimize the Zoom thing maybe a little bit.
Okay, that's what I had to do. I had to minimize all your beautiful faces a little bit.
Oh darn.
I'm happy with not being seen. Okay, good. So, and you have all this in the packet. It just might be easier if I can turn the pages so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just go through some things pretty quickly. So the district has its own pension plan. It's not in CalPERS. This is a plan just for district employees, and it's set up with PARS. PARS is investing the money for you and administering the plan. The benefit that's being provided to retirees is the benefit required by CalPERS. We call it a PEPRA formula. It was a Public Employees Pension Reform Act. It applies to all new state employees after 2013, I believe. So it's sort of a standard required formula. And what it says is a retiree gets 2% multiplied by their final average pay times the number of years of service they have. And that's the pension they get when they retire. And we only count district service after the date the pension plan went in. So right now we're looking at fairly small benefits for people, except for those who went and purchased additional service. As required by state law, the employees are paying half the cost of the plan. Okay, the district pays half, employees pay half. Oops, sorry. We have at the moment in the right-hand column, we have 7 active employees covered by the plan. A year ago, actually, this is June 30th of 19, and we have 2 retirees, which is kind of exciting. And their average benefit is a little over $500 a month. So for people who have not been working that long, it's a reasonable benefit. Okay. In doing our calculations, we're modeling the benefits that are expected to be paid to employees over the rest of their lifetime after they retire. So we're building a lot of models that talk about how we think they're going to behave when they're going to retire. We use standard assumptions set by CalPERS. And the most important assumption we use is called the discount rate, which says, what do we think the funds are going to earn? We had a lot of discussions about that in the past and settled on 6.5% as a long-term estimate. I'm not sure if I heard a question. No, okay. So there's a lot more details in the report. The asset values of the plan have grown over the past 2 years. 2 years ago, we had $528,000. And by the end, June 30th of 2019, it's grown to $760,000. The fund earned on average each of those 2 years about 7%, so slightly better than expected. I don't have the earnings for June 30th, 20, but in general, they've not been as bad as we thought they were going to be at one point. So probably did not hit 6 3/4 at June 30th, 20, but probably it was a positive return. So that's good. So the other thing you can see on this slide is the amount of money that's gone into the plan, which is very interesting. The employees have paid about $45,000 into the plan each year. The district's paid about the same amount. And the investments actually have paid almost the same amount in investment earnings. Over time, that will grow. So more and more of the money going into the fund will come from investments. And then we've paid out relatively small amounts of benefits. I'm moving to slide 10, and I just want to show you the middle of the slide where it says actuarial accrued liability. This is the value of benefits earned to date for all of your active employees and retirees. So this is the way I think about it is how much money should we have on hand now so it'll grow over time and be enough to pay the benefits for all of our current employees when they retire. And that amount is $685,000. The really good news is that the value of your assets is $760,000. So there's more assets than required by about $73,000. There is no unfunded liability in this pension plan, which is, again, really great. You're 110% funded. It's certainly not an amount of money that I would worry about as being excessive, more as a little bit of a cushion in case things don't always go as well as we expect.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great news. And the last thing we do in the valuation is to calculate the contribution rate for the coming 2 years. And following the state law, we've calculated that the employees are going to continue to pay 7 3/4% of their pay up to the the PEPRA law does not allow all pay to be counted. There's a limit on how much pay can be counted. So employees will pay 7.75% of pay up to that amount, and the district will pay almost an equal dollar amount, which is administered as 7.01% of total earnings. Slightly, very, very slight increase from last year, mostly due to rounding. So the costs of the plan are very stable. They've stayed stable, and you're slightly overfunded, and all that is really awesome news. Any questions on the base report?
No, it's very positive. Thank you. And it's very clear and easy
I'm
to understand.
trying to unmute here real quick with a
Okay.
bad left hand. If you could possibly, when you get the numbers, I think it was for June of 20, they might be less robust. We know that, but we'd like to just see those to see how we're, if you could
Sure.
just shoot those off to the board or Clemens, if you
Yeah,
could
when
track
we-
those down, that'd be great.
When we know them, we can let you know.
That'd be great.
Write that down. Okay, so I'm going to, if there's no further questions, I'm going to switch and talk about accounting in the GASB 68. So the report I
Please.
paged through really quickly was designed to give you an idea of the funded status of the plan and say what the contributions ought to be going forward. The second report, which was the earlier agenda item, talks about the accounting information. It follows this accounting standard known as GASB Statement 68. And I'm going to apologize maybe to many of you because I tend to think of this as just accounting, but it's very important. And this report has many of the same numbers, and it has a lot of fairly meaningless numbers in it, but they're required to be calculated and presented in your financial statements. We use all of the same assumptions and the same discount rate as in the funding valuation. So we end up telling the public the total pension liability is $685,000. For the assets, we have to use a little bit different asset number. It's an asset number reported by PARS, and it's audited by their auditors. It comes out a little different for some reason, but the overall result is the same. You're going to present an unfunded, or actually an overfunded liability of about $81,000 for the financial statements. And the confusing thing is that even though this is all measured and calculated as of June 30th, 2019, it shows up on your June 30th, 20 financial statements, and it's labeled as a June 30th, 20 number. So it has a lag built into it. That's really the extent of what I want to say about it. There's probably 3 or 4 more pages of tables and exhibits that go into the financial statements, but I think they're pretty much meaningless except to other actuaries, and really don't have a lot of intrinsic value to them. But the overall summary is it's showing a very positive situation of a slightly overfunded pension plan. Questions?
Questions from the board first. Let's put the board back on. I see a question from Rick. You're on mute. Push the button, right?
Talk the whole time. That was the thumbs down for no comments.
Ah, that was the, okay.
This is so complicated.
Yes. Peter, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, Scott?
I just want to say I appreciate the report, the good numbers, and I want to know how good it is that we can do something that provides a modest benefit that involves participation from our team, but provides some nice benefit for having been a part of the team and working hard all these years.
Right.
Yeah. And the whole program is financially solid.
Right, and we are overfunded. It is so nice to hear, as opposed to so many agencies that are wondering how to fund it.
Yeah, I make my comments in light of that, the history of all of the kind of really poor management done in the years before, but we had the benefit of learning from those mistakes and having the state say you can't make those same mistakes. So
Yes.
it's nice to do something that is financially sound that brings this kind of benefit. I think it's a benefit to the community as a whole because it, you know, working for a community organization like Montara Water and Sanitary District is not necessarily the thing that, you know, people, it's just one of those really necessary things. And we know the people that do this work are doing great work and they're good people. And it's just anything we can do to provide support and bolster that is a good thing. And I like seeing something so solid.
Right.
Hey, Scott, hold those thoughts also for the LAFCO agenda item at the end.
Okay, I do not see Greg. I was going to ask Greg if he has a question, but he
Nope.
apparently seems to have dropped off for a minute. So we need to review and accept the 2020 GASB 68 valuation.
So move.
We need a motion, a second, and a roll
Second.
call, please.
A second with a big thanks to Mary Beth. Thank you for the
Yeah.
numbers. It's not just a feeling, it's a good hard fact, and that's really nice in this day and age to have something to rely on.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Scott.
Good, and so let's have the roll call vote then.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. And then review and possible action concerning the receipt of the June 30, 2019 actuarial valuation and adjustments to contribution rates.
Are you looking for a move to receive?
I am looking for a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
So moved.
I
Second.
second.
Maybe we can be specific that there is the adoption of a resolution adjusting the employer paid member contributions for fiscal year 2021 and 21-22.
Okay, and
Nice.
it's resolution next in order.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
So there are 3 ayes, 1 yep, and one
There
yep.
were actually 2 yeses. I think that was just fine.
Yep.
No, no, Jim's correct. He's calling out the yep.
Okay, well,
Sorry, Tracy.
Tracy, make sure you get all that down.
We are kind of a coastal community, so
We like our language to reflect the diversity.
It's all transparency.
Item 5, review and possible action concerning mutual aid agreement with water wastewater member agencies in CalWarn. And you could explain, please, Clemens, what CalWarn is.
That's a pretty scary title.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, this is obviously related to emergency preparedness, and CalWarn is the California Water Wastewater Agency Response Network, where a bunch of agencies get together and just decide to organize themselves to help each other out in case of an emergency. And we are a member of CalWarn. We have been a member of CalWarn for quite some time. However, what we're missing right now is to sign the mutual assistance agreement, and that is to process the sharing of emergency resources. And there's a number of examples in the short period in the last years with the fires, for example, where some of that actually played an important role for everybody. So we're here asking the board for authorization to sign the mutual aid agreement with CalWarn. There are some obligations that come along with it, but this means simply that we're required to respond. It doesn't mean that we have to provide help, but we have to essentially respond if we're able to in case of an emergency. We're recommending the adoption of the resolution authorizing the general manager to sign the mutual aid agreement with CalWarn. Rick, question?
Yes, I think this is a great idea. My question is, realistically, we're on the coast over here. How are there ways we could actually participate in it? We can't give anybody water other than CCWD with an extra pipe or something. But I mean, how would we share? How would we help? I guess is the question. Would they haul wastewater over here? Or,
How would we receive help is the question.
No,
Okay.
how would we give help?
For instance, by giving them one of our emergency generator sets?
For
Right.
example, or if
Yeah,
there's
good.
operator time that can be made available. Maybe there's a specific expertise that we have. Everybody knows
Okay.
we're very good at understanding aquifers, groundwater exploration. So if there is an emergency, we can, I think, provide in certain circumstances help. Yes.
And we have
Good.
very talented and multi-skilled employees that, given how big some of the other agencies have, their employees actually have jobs doing less over a larger system. They do more specific jobs. So our crew is very multi-talented, and they could be of help if they were able to get and wanted to get over there.
Just one quick
More
thing.
questions, Rick?
Are there any, doesn't seem to be any financial obligations or anything around this, so
No.
I'll say,
Nick-
I'll make
Nick-
the motion.
Who, if we send our employees over to help somebody, who pays for it?
That would be us in this case.
Yes.
That would be us. Okay. That's just nice to make that clear, since
No, that's the
Right,
helping part. And if we're trash, they would do the same thing as the implication, so.
yes,
I
well,
trust them.
and it sounds like there's a list of things in the agreement that we agree to pay for or provide, and it all makes sense. So, any more questions? Greg, do you have a question? Nope. Okay.
If I could
Moving-
just, Catherine, this is Pippin, if I could just add a comment on
Oh,
how I've
please.
seen this type of agreement in action recently. Up here, there's a similar agreement, agencies participating in this type of agreement. And about 6 months ago, there was a force main leak where work had to be accomplished 24 hours a day through the night and the day. And local agencies respond with staff, operators, and equipment to be able to relieve those people to be able to go home and sleep while the work participated. And then the effort was reciprocated when one of the neighboring agencies had a force main issue, not quite as urgent, but extremely critical. And the agencies reciprocated and brought equipment and crew helping in reverse, if you will. So it went both ways, and it's a nice agreement that these agencies can rely on for all kinds of things to help with protecting against the regulatory challenges.
I think that makes it's important because this is smaller agencies supporting smaller agencies, so that the state doesn't have quite the same impetus. You had a legislator in Marin who was trying to get more consolidations going, Huffman, and so when we can point to these kinds of mutual aid agreements, it works for smaller local government to survive in a better fashion.
Earlier,
Great.
I moved to sign earlier, so.
You made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Second.
Peter.
Go, Peter.
Third, thank you, Jim. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Yep.
Director Loman,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion carries. unanimously. Again, review and possible action. We're at number 6 concerning acceptance of the agreement for construction and acquisition of sewer main extension at 540 Stetson Street.
Thank you, Catherine. So this is a standard agreement for the construction of a sewer main extension at 540 Stetson. The sewer main needs to be extended so that the applicant can connect according to district standards. So this is something that the district requires. And Pippin Newt Engineering reviewed, of course, all the documents, the engineering plans for that extension and the connection. And now we're suggesting to enter into the agreement. There will be a year warranty bond. And of course, in this case, the applicant pays all the cost and related fees for the construction of the sewer main. Once the project has been completed, there's a warranty period of a year. So after that, we can return that money that we hold in reserve just in case something breaks during that period. So the recommendation is to authorize the release of the warranty bond, adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District approving the main sewer extension and authorizing execution of agreement for construction and acquisition of the sewer main extension.
Can I ask, Pippin, the exhibits and property descriptions are blank. Can you kind of describe the project for us a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah, those backup documents are available if they're weren't able to be where you could see them. Essentially, we have a lot along Stetson Street, which happens to be kind of in the middle of Stetson Street, but it happens to be positioned at a high point where the sewer to the north drains away and the sewer to the south drains away. But excuse me, I apologize. But the sewer was never extended in front of the applicant's property because there was never a need there because there was no house there at the time. And this is an area where people are building on their own terms. It's not a developer. So in order to get the house sewered, the main line just needs to be extended north, just one property. So there's a sewer serving the front of the applicant's property, and then they can connect their lateral to it. It's a pretty straightforward construction. It'll just be relocating or extending rather the existing 6-inch sewer main and installing a new end-of-line structure so they can connect into it.
Thank you.
Any other
Question?
questions from the board? Rick?
Question, yes. And in these situations, as far as the cost of doing this, again, related to a LAFCO item, does the homeowner or the developer pay for this extension?
Yes.
Or do they just pay for the connection and we pay for the extension?
No, they
How's
pay
that
for
work?
they pay for the extension separately from any connection or lateral charges or home fixture unit charges. So they have an engineer's estimate from their designer engineer on the project. They have a bid from a contractor that will perform the work for the price they've agreed on. And then based on that bid, the applicant submitted a bond, insurance money essentially to the district.
Good.
So if we had to rebuild it or something broke, there would be cash reserve to make the repairs. After the warranty, that cash reserve or bond is returned back to the customer.
Awesome. I think that's great.
I
Okay,
think
do we-
Greg may have something to say on this subject.
Yes, I know he does.
Yeah.
And oh, I see somebody else has joined us. So let's start with Greg's question. And there were some numbers involved. So Pippin and Clemens, if you can address that once Greg tells us.
Let me ask a question first. Clemens, I assume this residence is getting both water and sewer connection fees. Can you remind me what those amounts are approximately?
Just say on the water side, it's below 20,000, just below 17,000, around 17,000. There's additional fees, and the connection fee on the sewer side is around $24,000 currently.
So something less than 50,000 combined. All right.
With additional fees,
So with that,
you're looking at 65,000.
but some of those fees are for actual direct labor, right, on your part?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the net free money is about $45,000, $50,000. So
Wait a minute. Let's ask the question. How do you define free money?
margin that you get to keep and is not used to incur expenses such as your labor and connecting the laterals and so forth.
It's buying into the system.
Right.
I think what Greg is referring to is the difference between what you're asking the client to pay and then what your actual cost is.
Let's let the public comment complete.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to remind you, and I emailed some of you, I don't know if you can allow me to share my screen, but I emailed the board and Clemens some material. Because you may remember, I looked at the asset foundation of the district a while back, and then I had used approximate numbers for Sam. I worked with Kishan to update his entire asset portfolio to 2020 numbers. And then I updated my analysis for this district with our 21% share of those assets. There's some question about how many connections there actually are, ranging from 1,700 for water to up to 2,000 for sewer. But ballpark, there's something over $125,000 per connection equivalent in the district. That is, the existing ratepayers have paid for a foundation that's 125, 127,000, which is much more than 45 or 50,000 that this new joiner is being charged. And there may be good reasons for subsidizing the new joiner because we're desperate for money, etc. But the second thing I want to point out, and the implications here go far beyond this one small residence, which is why I'm raising them. If you assume 3.5% inflation and somebody donates an asset, whether it's 10,000, 100,000, or $1 million, and if we say this pipe is going to last 100 years, then by the time you get done, that pipe, the initial $1 million becomes $31 million in 100 years. Put another way, over a 100-year life, the average annual burden on the ratepayers for replenishing that asset when it wears out, in the case of $1 million pipe, is $312,000 a year, or 31 point something% of the value of the asset. Now, this new joiner is paying for the upfront costs, but I'm not hearing that they're being charged an extra asset replenishment fee, or what you guys call water system reliability charge, for that incremental asset. And this is one small case. But if you do it twice or 20 or 30 times, then you begin to burden the ratepayers even more strongly, because you have not collected enough money to fund the asset replenishment. And that's what the numbers I'm showing you are. And as Peter, I'm sure, can testify, there's dozens of ways we could manipulate these numbers, different inflation rates, etc. But the concept is solid here. Small mistakes add up. And so to ensure that the board is performing its fiduciary responsibilities to the district and the existing ratepayers, I am requesting that no project involving a new asset beyond a normal water or sewer lateral, which is fully funded and connects the property to the main, should be approved. None should be approved until an analysis of the incremental revenues and costs from the new joiner is performed. and it is deemed by that analysis to hold an existing ratepayers harmless. And that analysis should take into account inflation, the potential replenishment of the asset, as well as the operating margins on water and sewer fees and other fees and costs that you may collect. At this point, I am unaware that the district has conducted this analysis. And so I'm saying, until you do that analysis and see what the long-term costs are, you should not approve this connection. And of course, there are other pending projects with connections where the numbers get much larger, where we'll need this kind of rigorous oversight even more than we do on this small instance. So that's my public comment. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. I am available offline to document this in a zillion different ways and explain it at length and whatever is required.
I'm just going to briefly state that you're mixing a couple of things together here that really don't belong together. For example, you mentioned the water system reliability charge as if this would be the only way the district is setting aside money for replacements. That's not the case. Our regular rates are used for replacements. So the customer will pay sewer service charges going forward. There's a minimum sewer service charge of 16 HCF. At least that was, the calculation is a bit different now. So there's a minimum sewer service charge so that at all times, the customer will pay throughout the 100-year lifespan that you're assuming. The customer contributes to the replacement of all assets. This is a buy-in into a community system. That means we're taking on new members, and those new members enlarge the system. This makes it much more effective for everyone. It's not like you're paying for your own septic system. There's now somebody who enters the community of Montara Water and Sanitary District customers.
I'm familiar with the concepts. I'm requesting you put it in writing, put together a spreadsheet and show what the impact is. Further background on this, and you know we disagree, is that you guys are talking about $2 million in capital improvement projects annually. And the numbers I have showing your asset base are that you need over $3 million. And you're not funded for that. So everything you do in a small scale like this is going to add up. You need more upfront charges.
Catherine, can I respond to that CIP comment he just made?
I was going to ask both you and Alex to respond to this and yeah, because I see some, I appreciate that you want this on the agenda, Greg, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of money getting this kind of analysis done. Pippin and Alex, please.
So I think I agree with Clemens in that you have a lot of important facts and comments to bring up, and I think those are all questions that the board, should consider and will consider. And I think Alex can probably speak if he's still on that he could, some of these items that you're talking about have actually been looked at before. But I'd like to just comment onto your statement that the district's underfunded on the CIP. There are a lot of ways to consider how you value a system, how you value replacement of the system. And a lot of that has to do with available construction techniques. A lot of it has to do with perspective on where the market is. We're seeing pipe replacements today cheaper than we saw 5 years ago. That's you could say unusual, but a different perspective is it shows the technology for rehabilitating pipes is it's amazing that the technology is getting better and the crews are getting better. So I could run the numbers for the district for one construction method and come up with a CIP expected cost double another method. So I think you're making some really broad statements by saying the district's underfunded because you think you value the system at a certain rate or a certain replacement. We're not starting with cutting a new system in, open cutting, trenching, rebuilding from the ground up. We have an existing system. Different rehabilitation methods are used for different parts of that system.
Catherine,
Um,
Rick,
sure.
I, I think these are amazingly good discussions that we should have because they're very important. However, the agenda item is for this person's residence, and this project obviously went through with the expectation of the connection. I can't see at this point, and the discussions need to occur. But for tonight's agenda item, we can't stop something that this future resident on Stetson had planned for based on all our discussions.
Right.
So I would move to approve.
Oh,
Thank
I've
you.
still got a comment or two.
Well, and I'd like to hear something from Alex because this is our connection fees are in line in many ways, and we use a state formula, a standard accounting to set our connection fees. And Alex is and Bartle Wells help us review and set those. And so I think what Greg is asking for is a radical change on the part of the entire industry. And I am concerned. I would like to see a larger district take that up before we do, so we could copy them. But Alex, if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all the points that have made. I'll just try to keep it real quick. Your water capacity charges were updated, in the last few years. The sewer, it's been a little bit longer. But it was based on, doing a forward look at what the, capital costs were. Tanya did an analysis on the engineering side. But you guys actually, your fees are not low by any stretch of the imagination, I'll point out there. And also you do have funding, as Clemens pointed out, coming through the rates. It's hard to gauge these numbers because they're just big, broad brush estimates. But I think the district is trying to keep its rates and charges in line with what the future funding needs are. I don't think there's a big subsidy happening when anyone connects to your system. I kind of agree with Clemens that they're now becoming part of the system and sharing in the costs. Not only do they pay an upfront fee that's pretty substantial, they're also paying ongoing costs every year. And the other thing I was going to mention, yeah, there is an inflation rate. I agree with Greg. Something that's $1 million today might be, in 100 years, $30 million. But so are the inflation works also for people's payments, and your fees go up over time, your rates go up over time. So it's hard to look out. And if someone was to pay you now, yeah, I think there could be more discussion offline if folks wanted to do this, but I think the district's been doing a good job with its finances, and that your rates are not, and fees are not, woefully under recovering costs for your facilities.
I would suggest that we look on a regular basis at the connection fees just to make sure we're still in line.
Yeah, we do.
It's
Scott.
board policy that we do. Catherine, I had a.
Yes, I just mentioned your name.
Okay.
Scott, go.
So the cost to join the system is reflective of the cost of joining the system. The cost of maintaining the system year over year is something that we do year over year with the collection of fees. And the cost of take this one, for example. If we look at at this applicant, and to Rick's point, we don't have to accept it into the system. That doesn't mean it can't be used, but it's our practice. If someone pays to do it to our standards, then as a pretty normal matter, we take it into the system. Should we have to replace this at some point? The parts that we would replace are the parts that would be attached to everything else in that street, and the costs would have to be considered aggregate across that range of things. So trying to look at this one property and the checks that this person is writing for this thing, honestly, I think it's a category error. And Pippin's comments about replacement costs are getting lower, construction materials are getting better, techniques are getting better. What we're seeing to do projects and our cost per lineal foot has really changed over the years, and the value of the work that we're getting out of it has improved over the years. So it's fine to put it in a spreadsheet, but if we're not careful, we get into making comparing apples and oranges, and want to be really careful about doing that. But I think the real thing is looking at our engineer's assessment of what's happening with the equipment that we own, the stuff in the ground, the stuff above the ground, and working with staff and figuring out year over year, what do we anticipate needs to be replaced or repaired, and making sure we have money each year for what we see coming up. So when we're looking at the infrastructure and capital inventory, we can actually chart out year over year when we expect these things may wear out. But there's other things that we can do too, and some of that is increase maintenance so things wear out slower. And we've done that with things like generators, where we've extended their life by spending a little more on maintenance. We've extended the life so we didn't have to do a $50,000 or $100,000 replacement in a time where we didn't have the cash flow to support it. So there's a lot of knobs on this that, if with good, careful year-over-year management, we've got a long track record of staying on top of this stuff. Where we are right now with doing the increase in fees is after a bunch of careful engineering analysis to figure out what do we actually need to do and what do we anticipate in the years coming up. So a spreadsheet absent all of that analysis standalone can't be used quite that way. I know it's tempting, but it's not that simple. It's a good start, and it's something that perhaps we can use to help inform what we're doing going forward. I don't mean to put it down, but it's got to be part of the bigger picture.
I would suggest that what we do is we take Greg's comments and concerns, excerpt them out and throw them in a file, so that next time we do our rate and connection fee analysis, we can make sure we answer all of these questions.
I mean, I just want to add, I certainly get the idea if there are projects that add a lot of units. If we have an error, it would magnified by the number. When it's one or two, it's like, on the margins, okay. If we were to add 500 units to the community, we'd want to be real sure that our multiplier was on a number that was scaled right. And I take Greg's point on that.
Absolutely, but well, there are lots of different concerns between 500 units and a single unit too, in terms of their wear and tear on the system. Fortunately, we have good engineers and good economists, so we can take that into consideration. Let's have a motion and a second for the resolution next in order for the agreement.
I move to approve the resolution next in order for the board to authorize the general manager to release the warranty bond and adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District approving a main sewer extension and authorizing execution of agreement for construction and acquisition of sewer main extension.
For 540 Stetson.
Yes.
I second.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Scott. Roll call vote, please.
Director Decker,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
I was so confused. I'm going to give you a big yep.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Lohman.
Hello, Rick. Is that a nod? You're frozen.
During this, I said affirmative.
Ah, it just came through.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And Greg, thank you for the comments. They're not going to get ignored, but they're not going to get acted on in the next week, but we will be again doing a connection fee and rate increase or rate study, so we will add that to the file of question. Item 7, information related to San Francisco Public Utilities Commission construction and the very top of Montara Mountain, Clemens. And thank you, Jim, for asking to have this on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I wanted to do the same. We're really talking about what is called the SF Bay Advanced Quantitative Precipitation Information System, or AQPI. And that's really funded through Department of Water Resources grant. And it essentially is managed through the Sonoma Water and the participating Bay Area agencies. NOAA is part of this also. So there's a bunch of agencies that are looking at more information about precipitation. So there's a series of radar systems that will be installed. These are called X-band and C-band radars that are all targeted to increase the accuracy of the weather forecasting and the response systems throughout the Bay Area, really. So who's interested in some of this? This is helping all the water managers like us, reservoir operators, wastewater plant managers, particularly San Francisco with a combined system is going to see, has probably a real interest in this. There's flood emergency responders that have a high interest in, we're really talking about just a denser granularity of the weather forecast. Now there is one of these radar stations that is going up on Montara Mountain. And so we reached out to San Francisco to get some information. That's how we know a lot about this. There will be some site improvements, and they're saying vegetation removal, construction of a 150-foot access road, engineered foundations for the radar and radio tower, installation of radar and support structure. There's a 45-foot monopole tower with communication antennas and a small dish, and connection to existing power lines. There's a backup power system that goes up, and all of this will be behind a fence. So I actually got in contact with SFPUC about this probably 5 years ago. I was alerted to this through a notification way back then, and actually picked up the phone and called SFPUC and had actually invited the managers for this program out here to tour our Alta Vista site. I was essentially offering our Alta Vista site as a possible station, possible radar site. We own 10 acres on a pretty high elevation up on the mountain that we're already using for water tanks and other facilities, and haven't heard since from SFPUC on this. So I want to make it clear that we, of course, have a real interest in better weather forecast, and that is particularly on the sewer public agencies like us. Then there is, of course, a little bit of different side, and that is that there is some community concerns. I invited a local resident, Mark Wielander, to participate tonight in this meeting. He's got some really impressive photos that I actually would like to ask him to share. I'm not sure if the board would prefer the discussion first, but I think this is of real interest because it really shows how the top of the mountain is gone.
I'd like to see the photos first because they'll help bring into context, better context, your words. Mark, thank you so very much for joining us in sharing this with the community. Some of us don't make it up that high. And so I, as a lowlander, appreciate it, but that's what makes us a special community too. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, you're still on mute. And you should be able to share your screen right now as we chatted
Sure.
about before. Okay.
I will share the screen and let me know.
Yes.
Give me a second to do that. I'll be right back. I have to update my thing to share it with you. So I just have to quit out for a second. I'll be right back.
Sure. In the meantime, while Mark is doing that, I think this is great, Clemens, that we're participating in better weather forecast. You know, as Mark will point out, the downside is that the top of Montara mountain is off limits with the fence. So you can't climb to the summit of Mount Montara anymore. They direct you to one of the little bumps next to it, adjacent to the actual summit. So, you know, I'm not sure why they had to fence the whole area off, and I'm not sure why people who wish to go to the top can't get to the top, or at least, you know, close to the top. I'm not sure why they have to fence off the whole area. You know, it's kind of frustrating if you're a climber to not get to the top of the mountain.
Okay, can you guys see?
Yes.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I go up there maybe once a week. I was just up to the top today. And these were taken a few weeks ago, but you can imagine my surprise when I came up to the top of the mountain and it was no longer there. It was just bulldozed. So I have talked with Tim Ramirez with the SFPUC, and so everything that Clemens says is true. They're building this station up here, and this bulldozer is right on top of the site. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. This is some of the equipment there.
And here one.
And I hope I'm not going too fast. They built a big road going up there so you can see. That's what that's what the top of Montara Mountain used to be. Beautiful piece of granite. That was the top and it's no longer there. So then I went up there a couple weeks ago, and this is progress. So they've now got the site prepped. They marked it off with spray paint. And these are the areas that Clemens was mentioning. There's the tower. So it's just a big flat piece of gravel right now. And this is the road coming up to it. And so this is this area here where you can see my mouse is the area that they're working on. And this one below is a existing radio tower for everyone who's been up there. And then this area here is the new road that they've built. And my whole conversation with Tim was based on getting him to open the mountain up so that hikers could go to the top when this project is completed. Right now, as somebody said, it's all fenced off. And I just proposed, they have this whole area, the top of the mountain. I proposed that if they could make room, because I was up there and I walked the construction site. It's actually quite a small footprint. I would say it's about as big as a 2-car garage, and their construction was about as big as a 1-car space at that. I said if you could just tuck it in a little bit so you could still leave the view so that hikers and visitors could go there, it'd be appreciated if they could at least consider it, or maybe they could, if they're not willing to do that, maybe they could create a little smaller trail that people could see that view with. So Tim's response was that they have to close it off for safety reasons. And by doing research in this project, it was run by the San Mateo County for approval last August. And they pretty much did it as a favor to San Mateo County. They don't apparently have to ask because they own the property. They actually, San Francisco PUC actually owns the top of Montara Mountain. So I've just been trying to communicate with them to let them know that hikers and people that go to the top of that mountain, it means a lot for them to have access to it. It's kind of the way it's blocked off now. You can't see the view from the top of the mountain, which shows the whole Bay Area. You'd never know it was there unless you went up there. And so I'm trying to get them to reestablish that once they finish constructions, which they expect to be mid to late next year. And that's everything that's going on there is the 40-foot tower, generator shed, a storage shed for some materials, and a propane tank. So it's pretty small stuff, and then a fence that gets built around it. But it's up to them to decide whether they want to build a fence that's 100 feet around this project and completely keep people away, or whether they'd like to work with us to maybe make it a little more accessible, which is what I'm hoping that they would consider, but I don't think they're under any obligation. So, and Clemens is correct that equipment is scientific weather sensing data for NOA, and it's also communications equipment for firefighters and I think some of the sheriff department. And some of that stuff is actually redundant. Some of the communications they already have in those towers. SFPUC just wants them for themselves as well. So I hope my presentation helped you and answered some questions.
Mark, I want to, Jim here, I want to thank you for your efforts in doing that. I think that you're obviously asking in a very nice, kind way and asking for cooperation. So I appreciate your efforts to make the fence a little bit smaller. So thank you very much.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I mean, I really like to go up there, and I can see the hikers when I run into up there. They don't really understand what's going on, so I'll try to answer questions for them. But it is definitely a lot. It's unfortunate the way they kind of handled the project is that they just went through a approval process without really bringing it to the public, and then they just bulldozed the historical top of mountain, which it seems they could have placed all of that equipment downward of the mountain another 50 or 100 feet, and it would have really made a difference. They could have made the tower a little taller. It would have accomplished the same thing, but what's done is done.
Right. I am disappointed that the Mid-Coast Community Council didn't know about this, that they have been working very hard on many other issues. And I am particularly disappointed that the county didn't recognize the community, not only of Montara, but of Pacifica and everyone else, because it should have come to the community, and the Board of Supervisors could have worked well with San Francisco County to get changes made, or at least visitor accommodations accomplished. Greg, since you're on the Mid-Coast Community Council now, I hope you will take this up working with Jim and Alex. I'd be very happy to sign a petition or go to a Board of Supervisors hearing to talk about this, because our natural spaces like the top of Montara Mountain. That's a fairly historic
Yeah.
place, and it is a place that is of great importance to many people. So, um, Rick, after I finish, then you, and after Rick, then Pippin. Um, but I just think it's not too late, and let's just see what we can get done. Maybe nothing, who knows? But I believe if you don't do anything, nothing will happen. And if you work hard and create a constituency, you can make changes. Go to the Sue Vaderlos and the Pacifica City Council folks. Ask them to get involved. Um, folks from Montara are amazing, and the things we've gotten done are historic. And let's add one more to the list. Jim, I'm sorry, Rick.
Yeah, my comments are based on, I'm trying to figure out what is already locked in and cannot be changed. First of all, I 100% support Mark's proposal to negotiate and shrink the fence as much as physically possible. I've taken my grandkids up there, and that's a really cool place. Another part of the reality is if we make that agreement, there's still going to be a tower or towers put up there. One of the things we keep talking about out here is that we really have no reasonable telephone reception out here. If we're stuck with a tower, is part of the project possible to talk to AT&T or Verizon to
Or
actually,
T-Mobile,
If
or
you
all
want
of
good,
them.
or any of those, and say, hey, why don't we also give Montara phone service at the same time?
so to that, first of
It's
all,
like
you want good
parallel, you
phone
know.
if you want good phone reception, Rick, you got to go to the top of Montara Mountain. There's already antennas up
There you go.
We are in the process of negotiating with AT&T to put antennas up on the Alta Vista side. So hopefully we can go forward with that soon. That will resolve a lot of the problems that we see throughout Montara, and it's going to reach all the way to Moss Beach.
Okay. Pippin?
Mark, quick question. There was a throne on the backside looking over the bay on Pacifica. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Somebody built a throne out of rocks on the backside. That was just a magical spot to sit and enjoy. I assume that's gone too.
That I can't answer, Clemens. You'd have to show me where that was, and I'll look for it the next time I'm up there. It's just the peak of Montara Mountain is gone, so it's about a 50 or 75 square foot area. I don't remember seeing a throne there, but the USGS elevation marker was there that people will go up and take their pictures with. That's gone, and you know, it definitely was the place where you could stand on a point that was there, and you were on the highest point of the mountain looking around. And now that area still could be preserved. That area, if they were to locate their buildings, but I was just up there. I've been up there every week, and they're already tractoring and digging the foundations, and so I think what's done is done for that. I think the most we could hope for is that we will have some access after the project is done.
So you just touched on my question from a engineer and geologic interest, and a community interest for understanding earthquakes in the state of California. I'd like to know, and Greg is really good at digging into questions. Greg, I'd like to ask you to look into this if you're asking questions, but all survey markers are protected federal property.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to touch a survey marker at all without permission, as far as I understand it. What permission did they give to move that marker, to remove that marker, and to change the elevation of that mountain for changing and documenting the movement of Montara Mountain and understanding how to predict earthquakes for the safety of our community?
Wow.
I search personally. I love I love hill climbing. I've got very interested in the last 2, 3 years with the fire spotter cameras, going mountaintop to mountaintop all around the Western state. You can do it on your keyboard now, looking at these incredible spot shotter live cameras. And USGS markers are, I haven't actually kept a photo record of them, but there's something I always seek out. And I'm shocked. I saw it in your picture. It was destroyed, and I'm flabbergasted. I
Well,
cannot.
Yeah, I had the
That's
same
marker.
question.
It's a felony actually to touch a marker on someone's property. I would assume it's the same up there, but I don't know.
Okay, well, Pippin, I was up there and I estimate that they lopped off the top 6 or 7 feet off of Mount Montara. So Mount
Yeah, I'd say that's
is
right.
like- Mount Montara is about 7 feet shorter. And as Mark says, indicated, to get a panoramic view now from the top, you have to take a walk around the construction area, looking out as you walk around. You can't get a panoramic view from, you have to kind of make a circuit around the top. And
Those
Pippin-
markers that you use to survey in the different locations of the mountaintops each year to understand where that mountain used to be in San Diego.
Yeah.
That's a San Diego landmark, a historical landmark that we've been appreciating here.
Tehachapi's. It's pretty part of the Tehachapi's.
The Boy Scouts of America is just one organization that teaches kids. They go to the top of the mountain. I did this many years ago with some friends in Idaho, and we went to the tops of mountains all along the range, and we found those markers, and we flashed mirrors to the next mountain down for communication and to teach the kids about how we surveyed this country. So I always, those are like a sacred monument for me as an engineer. And so I'm just surprised that they.
I was very surprised to see it gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a good question, Pippin. We should look into that. If it's
Catherine?
federal, Mark.
Can I add a little to this?
Please, and I think we better give USGS a call too.
So, as many of you know, I have previously worked for and I'm working for San Francisco Public Utilities Commission now. This is not a project I'm working on, but I do have, connections to folks that are working on it. I would just say that it's my knowledge that they did a mitigated neg deck last year in August. So I would assume that that was all part of that CEQA document. I can find that and I can find at least the link to it and get it to Clemens if you all need that. I did understand that at the time, there definitely was meetings with community members. Mark, I'm not certain who they were. Tim probably would know, but it was my understanding that they met with them at the time before construction started, and that there was an agreement that they are going to make a viewing platform available after construction. So that's kind of what I would add from what I understand, but there's certainly more information if it's needed, I think.
The viewing, Allison, the viewing platform is going to be on the adjacent hill, which is about 20 feet below. So the viewing platform is not on the top. It's on the side, on the southwest side of the mountain, I believe. So
yeah, that's my understanding too. They're moving it to a totally different peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure the fencing has a combination of purposes. What the fencing is now, which is construction related, versus what the fencing will be in the end, I don't know, but I'm certain there's security concerns about the facility. So
yeah, and I mentioned to Tim Ramirez at the SFPUC that really there's not a lot of security concerns up there. Everybody who has gone up there is super, super respectful. They're just happy to see the top of the mountain. I've never, ever seen vandalism. People, what they do is they'll gather up little rocks around and they'll make a heart and take a picture of it or something, but nobody's going up there to party or anything. It's too long of a hike. Everybody who's going up there is going up there to celebrate.
Scott,
For
you have a
follow-up by the MCC, I've sent several of you a chat with my email. I'm asking you to send me any material and thoughts that you would like me to bring up. Mark, especially your pictures.
Sure.
So
Have-
I mean, I can see articles about the rape of Montara Mountain coming out of this, but I mean, I'd like to have some facts.
Have Mark come to the MCC and make a presentation. Mark is not only a mountain climber, but he's a very dedicated community member, and he and his band, when we could actually have concerts, were a lot of fun. So having having him on the camera at MCC would be a real good thing for lots of people.
Right. I don't control the agenda, but I was married on a mountaintop and my honeymoon was in the Himalayas, so I'm sympathetic to this issue.
Nice.
Scott.
Yeah, so it may seem like a small thing to people who haven't done this before, but you hike 3 hours to get to the top of this thing, and you got to come up 25 feet short. It's an insult. Second, touching federal property. Well, this district has some experience with the federal government and federal property. It's a really serious thing and not to be taken lightly. And I want us to contact I will contact the USGS and ask them about survey markers and what they know about this, because that was my first thought. It's like, you can't touch a survey marker. That's
Right.
that's sacrosanct.
It's gone. The survey marker is gone.
That is a federal offense, and it's no small matter. And thank you, Pippin, for pointing out the variety of uses those markers have.
Yeah.
And it goes to people might think this brass plate in the middle of a piece of granite didn't mean anything, but it actually goes to the health and safety of our community because of earthquakes. Third, I hope that San Diego's lost all their property rights to this mountain, because I love this mountain. And they can come and take it if they, I came from Texas where Alamo was a thing, and the cannon was a thing with a flag with come and take it. That's where my grandparents lived. I have pictures from, as my background. They're all from the top. People do go up there on a regular basis, even old fogies like me. So I had one more thought, but we had a lot going on there. So if somebody else wants to team up with me on talking to the USGS about that survey marker, the more the merrier. The final point, which is 2 points. I don't care who they talk to. If they didn't talk to the Midcoast Community Council, they talked to the wrong people, and
That's right.
It's an affront to the community that they didn't. Mark, they may act like they have complete sovereignty over that property because they have title to it, but they do not. Filing a negative declaration is a requirement under the law, and going through the county is part of that requirement. That was not a courtesy. That was because they have a duty under the law. And then the question is, did they properly discharge that duty, or did they skip over a few points?
I thought I heard somebody say that they had they didn't have to make a public notice because it wasn't within 150 feet of anybody else's residence, which I thought was
Well, if
strange.
anyone talking like that is just announcing to the world that they don't give a damn about the community, and they deserve every ounce of scorn and scrutiny that the community wants to bring their direction. That's not in any way what we would expect from a government organization like SFPUC. They may be big, they may be powerful, but they're not above the law, and they do have a responsibility to talk to the community. They're bragging now about how they're opening up the trail across the ridgeline, as they should brag, but that doesn't excuse what they're doing under cover of darkness, essentially, by not bringing the community in. And the county should be ashamed that they engaged in this and didn't advise the Midcoast Community Council about this. They should have done that. So
right.
I would think that our our region's supervisor, Don Horsley, should get some phone calls. Like, why didn't you bring this to us? This is
That's right.
literally our backyard, and that's a huge oversight. So I know that the good guy that you're talking to there at SFPUC is telling you some things, but it sounds to me like he's soft pedaling it a lot. They cut corners, they did the wrong thing, and taking the top off the mountain, come on, like you've already pointed out, completely unnecessary.
Yeah, it seems weird. I mean, because when you're up there, you can see Mount Diablo and you can see the top of Mount Tamalpais, and our mountain, I would think, is just as special for people for those mountains to see.
Yeah.
I would think it would
Yeah.
be treated with more respect. And
Well,
Yeah, so thank you so
have
much for
a,
bringing this to us, Mark. I really, really appreciate that.
and I'd like Jim and Greg and Mark and anyone else who's interested to not only get together, but maybe we could make this um, maybe thank you, Pippin after me, like a standing item on our old agendas for a while, so we can keep the community informed, and we can help, and we can work with MCC on this as well. But this is not a small item, and I'm just I'm just so thankful for all of you for bringing this and making it a big deal. And Scott, you're absolutely right. Someone at the county should have said, this is clearly an item for the Midcoast Community Council. Let's put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody here. I didn't really think that I mean, I didn't think if there was anything that could be done, and I didn't really know if anybody would care about it, but it's, it's nice to see that people care about it.
Yeah, we do.
Well, like Scott says, you hike 3 hours, and you end up 7 feet short.
Yeah, I told Tim Ramirez at the SFPUC, when I go up there, I break into their fence and I go to the top because I just went up there. And I'm not doing it now because I'm respecting his wishes to not do that. But for the last year and a half or a year, I've been doing that just because of what you say, to go up there to the top and not even be able to see the view unless you trespass it sucks.
Pippin?
Sorry, really quick comment. I just want to remind everyone that there's a precedent to restore mountaintops in the Bay Area. You guys might look back if you didn't know or remember. Angel Island, very expensive projects here in the Bay, right? Angel Island had, I forget how many feet, but many, many feet added back to the top to restore the part that was cut off during our military days. And I would fight personally on a personal basis as a citizen of the Bay Area. It has nothing to do with my representation of Montara engineering wise. That mountain should be, that top point should be put back to its original elevation. I don't care how much it costs the San Francisco to do that.
They have the money.
It should be
You
put
call
back
it Angel Mountain? Angel Mountain, Pippin?
No, Angel Island.
Angel Island in the Bay.
The Nike base.
May I suggest we have a long closed session agenda. We have one more item and reports. But
if I could, Catherine, one last
one. Just let me finish, and then you. I would suggest that Clemens can give everybody their email connections, and they can choose to connect on a personal basis for to see if we can't get the mountaintop put back. I will tell you, for those of you who know and even don't know, that saving Mono Lake took about 25 years, but and a big fight with the LA Water District. And it was started as volunteer effort by law students at UC Davis. But they saved Mono Lake from getting drained into the swimming pools of LA. So there are all kinds of things we can do. And Pippin, thank you for just put it back. It's a simple thing. And I think, Scott, we have a few things like tunnel posters we can share with people.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing. It just occurred to me. And see, this is why you got to have the community participation. Um, there was undoubtedly a prescriptive easement across that property, and they had a duty to notify the people who have made use of that property all these years. I don't believe that. I think they've opened themselves up to attack from a number of legal angles, and I think it would be really great if we could talk to them about maybe correcting this mistake. I mean, we're super supportive of the science that they want to do. So
The
move
thing
the
is, the
tower, move the
project,
tower 30, 40 feet.
yeah, they could move it. They could still move it for maybe another several months because none of the, they're prepping and grading, but they could still move it. If,
For,
like that.
for a prescriptive easement, what it takes is getting statements from people that they have used it and used it over the years. And the further back you can get those statements going, the better. And the more statements you
We
can
could get
get,
hundreds of those statements.
that it will make a difference.
that's a good idea.
So Clemens, I'll trust, I'm sure you'll be able to put everybody together with their emails who wants to. I apologize for asking you to do one more thing, but you're sort of the linchpin for this whole
I'm
district, so.
happy to do it, and just mentioning that maybe the Sierra Club or some sort of a mountaineering organization would be also a good idea to contact.
Okay, I'll put you in touch with Mike Ferreira.
Okay.
He can get things done. Good, let's move on to the last item on new business review and possible action concerning the LAFCO Local Agency Formation Commission, East Palo Alto Sanitary District Municipal Service Review. Rick.
Yes, this
Okay.
item was for Rick to present.
Okie doke. I normally would have just nailed this in the LAFCO review down further in the agenda, but this has some, I think, direct correlations to issues we've had with LAFCO in the county. So this will be on our LAFCO agendas, and I was looking for any additional feedback or support on what I've been saying so far on these. Some quick background, LAFCO does these municipal service reviews, MSRs, allegedly every 5 years. That definitely is lagging. But when they do those, it seems like the standard verbiage is, oh, here we have a chance to consolidate special districts. And the examples I quote are Broadmoor Police next to San Francisco. Every MSR says, oh, just merge with South San Francisco. And at the last LAFCO meeting, like 40 citizens showed up and said, keep your hands off of our police department. So that was gone. They've tried to wipe out the Harbor District. We saved the Harbor District, which is now working. They've tried to merge the two healthcare districts on the Bayside, which are totally irrelevant to each other. And there seems to be this thing about just the first thought with special districts is consolidate. So at the LAFCO meeting, they made a presentation. One of our big items, the special district there is the East Palo Alto Sanitary District, mainly serving East Palo Alto. So East Palo Alto City created a whole development plan. They did not tell the special district or invite them. So the special district found out about it, a sanitary district, when the development plans were handed to them. And they looked at the plans and said, that'll be $40 million of infrastructure. The developer said, oh no, we're not going to pay for that. Your clients should pay for that. The district said, no, we're not going to do that. Developers pay for their development. Then the developers got together with the city and brought it to LAFCO to move up their municipal services review and include the nearby sanitary district, which is West Bay Sanitary. So they pushed through this thing. Oh, review this right now because this special district is being obnoxious. And when they bring in another district, there's this potential, oh, we're just going to merge them under the city, dissolve them because they're interfering, or merge them into West Bay, because that's generally what the MSRs. So I just wanted to bring that. We, the other special district rep, Josh Cosgrove, both of us voted against moving this up. This MSR was scheduled for like March or April, but they wanted to jump the line, and we said no. Just leave it out there and give these parties a chance to talk until March. You know, I don't want to be the arbiter of saying you're right or you're wrong. So I said, let them discuss this for 3 or 4 months and see if they can work out a deal. But the LAFCO panel voted against your 2 sanitary district reps and said, yes, we're going to jump the line and start this really quickly. So interestingly enough, at our special district chapter meeting, I can throw that in too and get rid of it. They had the 2 California Senate reps talk, and that was really the only significant issue there. Both of them said, I brought this up, you've got to be kidding. The developer has to pay for all infrastructure improvements. So I've kind of made that statement in front of LAFCO and several other places. I think that's defending special districts and any potential future mergers. We've talked many times, special districts are the most financially sound districts, you know, in the peninsulas. And they're the only ones who are under attack for mergers and things like that. So my attitude is mergers are not good. You know, local control is better. And that's what Joshua and I are going to be fighting against this. The MSR, if it says stuff like, oh, we need to just merge this financially sound district out of existence, then Joshua and I will say, no, we don't approve that. So we're going to fight that.
Rick,
at the levels.
I recall the IKEA shopping center in East Palo Alto was put in without notifying the sanitary district, and they got ready to connect to the sewer district and they couldn't do it. So there's some
I will take a
interesting
note of
history
that.
there you may want to check into. It might be in papers that somebody from the sanitary district may remember that. But if you've got to get the right questions in this MSR, for instance, for the coast side MSR, it turned out Half Moon Bay had been either underfunding or taking money out of its sewer district, and so it was entirely in debt for the MSR when they were recommending that we consolidate with it.
So that's also my LAFCO report and my CSD report later.
It's Scott. Scott, I want to just thank Scott, congratulate Scott for, excuse me, Rick. Congratulate Rick.
We all look alike.
Yeah, congratulate Rick for being appointed to LAFCO, and thank
for
him
getting on LAFCO, yes, I just took it for granted, and it was only only a 3-vote difference.
Only 12 people voted, which was kind of interesting.
And thank him for and thanks Rick for all that you've done.
Oh, it's
you're doing.
It's fun. At least we're remote. I don't have to drive over to San Mateo. So
that does help.
That was a razor thin margin, though. Is there going to be a recount?
Anyway, and Greg, this is something else you might want to report on at MCC is LAFCO's efforts to get rid of our small districts, because it's an ongoing battle and people on the coast don't want to get rid of our districts. So it's an important thing. to keep
Rick,
folks
I'll look to you to
notified.
feed me information, okay, Rick? Last I looked into this, and I did do some research a year or two ago, there were no benchmarks either at the county or the state level on the results in terms of cost or quality of service from any consolidations. None. I was astounded. So how do they have a case?
It's because it's a talking point, and they just the most oft, loudest, repeated assertion tends to win. So we have to talk back.
And the MSRs sometimes don't go into like the details Greg is talking about. I would say probably certainly way more than half are political decisions. Some of them are obscene cases that had to be merged and eliminated because they were just crazy. But, you know, other things could just be political. You know, on the coast, we're attacked and their goals are to take over everything and merge us out of existence. So anyway. Wrong button. We can move on to reports. I'm done unless people have, or if you have any comments or theories, just get in touch with me. This will be back on LAFCO in November again.
Okay, and for the Mid-Coast, there's a Sewer Authority Mid-Coast, there's a meeting on Monday. So everybody can zoom in as you wish. I will bring up the question and for the manager's report about the BOD and if it would be helpful for Half Moon Bay to be able to have a holding tank for it, a series of holding tanks for its flows, and ask for a report on that. I will also ask Sam if it's a member of the CalWarn or not. I don't know if it is or not. Maybe Granada should be too. Other
Maybe
than
we
that,
can
the
also
last
hear what the potential size of the fines are.
I will write that down.
I think that is not answerable at this time. I've heard something like $1,000 per day.
How much
But
per
that's
day?
just a couple thousand per day. That's a potential. I don't know if Pippin has a better idea, but that's what I've heard through Sam.
Yeah, I don't, Clemens, don't have, it's very hard to know exactly, but there was a slightly similar violation here on a treatment plant getting remodeled, rebuilt, and some of the new equipment didn't work as they had anticipated, or the designer had anticipated. And I want to say that they were out of specification for maybe a week, and they did have, I'd have to check the numbers, something like a $5,000 fine. But I think they got special exception because it was, you know, they had a permit to work on the plant. So they might have reduced the amount a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, and moving on, then we've gone through LAFCO and CSDA attorney's report.
I lied. I have a little more of a LAFCO report on a completely different subject.
Okay.
Because it's also relevant to us. Part of the last LAFCO presentation was this presentation by a group called Adapting to Rising Tides in the San Francisco Bay Area Conservation Stuff. Apparently this is a rising tide climate change thing on everything that's happening in San Francisco Bay. They've talked about 1/2 to 1/3 of all the problems in California are in San Francisco Bay. I looked at the outlines of the project and said, oh, you don't seem to be doing anything for the coast side there, just San Francisco Bay. And there was no response for a long time. But then Commissioner O'Neill, who's like Pacifica and stuff up there, said, oh yes, we have like apartments falling into the ocean and some other problems too, yet all the projects ignore the coast. So we got a few little minor zingers in there. I don't know what, they're not gonna like come out and work on the coast, but we got some good public statements out there. Anyway, then they did the MSR for our resource conservation district, which is based locally here on the coast. All of us got huge, wonderful compliments into them on all the amazing things they've been doing on the coast. So it was very successful and very supportive. They had one interesting thing that Kelly said I thought was really cool, because they're totally like grant funded and a little minimal tax stuff. They get like no money from anything, but with the projects and how they leverage things, she said on the projects they do, they leverage $114 for every dollar they get in cash. So it's a great local group. We contribute to the first flush analyses of all the streams and the first big rain, and they're helping, they do everything good for us here on the coast. So good group.
Well, I'm just glad to know we don't need to worry about sea level change on the ocean side, just the bay side.
We have no problems here.
Yeah, no,
And Sam will
all
not be
fine.
underwater.
No, no. Okay, attorney's report, Christine.
I do not have a report. Thank you.
Okay, director's reports.
Did you do, excuse me, did you do a SAM report? We didn't.
We haven't had a SAM meeting.
You skipped.
The SAM meetings have not been either interesting, they've just been all pretty much routine business.
It was actually canceled too, so.
Oh, yeah,
last-
I keep canceling SAM meetings because why bother?
We had a very important non-meeting, okay, so I made my
That's
report.
it. That's it. And the important stuff about SAM is in closed session anyway. General manager's report.
Nothing in addition to the written report. Thank you.
Can I ask?
Okay.
Can I ask a question of Clemens? A couple of days ago, the leak on Date Street. There was a person was had a backhoe back there and hit the water line. Can you give us a report on that leak? How significant was it, or what happened?
Yeah, sure. So you were breaking up a tad bit, but what I heard was that you clearly stated that was essentially an unlicensed backhoe operator who went in there on a weekend and started digging without proper notification, and was lucky to hit the water line, a fire sprinkler service line, to a property. Apparently, a major gas line was very close. So our crew went out there and explained the situation to the operator and notified the county about this as well, and worked with the property owner, who by now apparently released the backhoe operator or firm from their duties, and so they've been working pretty well with us, and there's going to be a discussion about how the repair is being paid. What we currently what the current indication is that the property owner will pay in full. So we'll see if that is true.
Okay. So my question is, normally the property owner is responsible for full payment when they are the cause of damage to our water system.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Clemens.
Clemens, I have one question about your comment, investigate marine mystery main. What is that point about?
So there was a service line that was run for a construction project on Marine. And so the construction crew found a main, but that water main was dry. So there was a little bit of thinking and head scratching that our operations guys had to do, and I tried my best to assist as much as possible with what I could, what I knew about the system out there. In short, there's an old main, an abandoned main that they tapped in first, or tried to tap in, realizing there's no water in it. So we had to just move that a little bit over, but it's one of these snags that just take half a day, out of a construction project easily. So we're glad we could resolve that. But it was quite a bit of an effort of figuring out where is actually the main and how can we trace it back. Yeah.
All these historic archaeological digs that you get to do from all the various systems that were out here. Good, thank you. We've got a list of future agendas. Let's recess this meeting for a few minutes, and everybody who doesn't need to be on can sign out, and we have 2 items in closed session. And so let's go from there.
Catherine, could you give us a full 5 minutes, please?
A full 5 minutes. Okay, I'm looking,
you.
it's 9:51. We're going to need a motion to extend the meeting.
I move to extend the meeting by an
Thank
hour.
you. By an hour.
And I have a brief statement before we convene in closed session, just for the record, that Director Lohman will be recusing himself from closed session item number 2 because of a conflict of interest under Government Code Section 87-100. So his video and audio will be turned off, and he'll probably not come back on after that, since it's item number 2.
Great, and thank you everyone for all your help and your patience.
5 minutes?
5 minutes, so it's 9:52, so at 9:57.